Here we can see up the Wax Barracks and around the PX, not too far from Service Club number 1. Here's the Service Club that many of us enjoyed dances with the girls from Natchez and Macomb. Here you can see the chapel in the distance, Service Club number 1. This is CT Red. This is where we used to have our rec hall. And this is the intersection of the artillery, where the officers and the artillery live. Looking up the street, we can see the PX of the 253rd, CTC Red, also the 861st. Some of the men from headquarters, regimental headquarters. Right across the street you can see the theater. Way up in the background we can see the water tower. Not too far up from A Company, 253rd. This is looking across the area of A Company, 253, 1st Battalion. Here we can see across the fire break at CTC 253rd. Looking down towards the incinerator in the 253rd area, some of the tar paper shacks that we all lived in and shared 2 stoves, 1 at each end. This is Sunday afternoon, poker game. And some of the boys that are hiding. Here we can see E Company area at the far end of 253, coming across to H Company area, Sergeant Shosik area. Here we can see CT Red at G Company. G Company's latrine and 2nd Battalion Headquarters latrine. Here you can see the area that we all know very well. This is G Company's cook, who prepared a lot of the food for G Company and some of the boys. This is the anti-tank company, Stelma, and some of his friends with a 37mm anti-tank gun. Luckily we didn't have to use that one, we had bigger ones. Here we can see CT Red again, and looking over the field we can see E Company coming back from its shots. Captain Pilla's guerrillas they called them. Sergeant Harris, Headquarters Company, 2nd Battalion. This is GI time. This is when everybody in the barracks gets together and we GI the barracks. Here you can see many of the men from the Headquarters Company 2nd Battalion that are there. Golubsky and Wayne Lawrence and Oglesby and Pakin. And some of his, there he goes into his famous snake dance. Yes, we're calling them all together. We'd like to get the barracks cleaned and ready for inspection. Wayne Lawrence, Sergeant Kennedy, and Olney. And it looks like the boys are getting ready for chow. Looking across the area, we can see many of the barracks. Tarangelo from New York, and that's Sergeant from Headquarters Company 2nd Battalion, and the men are standing in line, waiting for chow. Ah, yes. Afternoon chow. Sergeant Coyle, Olney, Tarangelo. And there's one poor man. Yes, he's peeling potatoes in KP. Some of the cooks from Headquarters Company getting ready to give out the chow, but as always, we must have the first sergeant. He's the first one to eat, and then after him comes the rest of the men. And of course, we've got our mail call, and some of the men are sitting around discussing letters from their wives and their girlfriends. Yes, chow time. Remember how we used to sit in the tent and eat? Sergeant Gay. Yes, he got broken from a first sergeant all the way down to a private. See, it can happen. Olney, Tarangelo, Sergeant Harris, Turvo. All waiting in line patiently for the first sergeant. Here he comes now. Ready to eat chow? Yes, sir. We're ready to go. Everybody standing in line, ready to roll. This is what we had to eat that day. Do you remember, men, how they used to throw it on the plate? Mail call again. Here they are, standing in line, waiting for those urgent letters from home. This PFC would like to have a pass to Centerville. So Sergeant Kennedy says to the PFC, Fishburne, why certainly I'll give you a pass to Centerville, but first you must shine my shoes. I'm trying awful hard to get a shine on them boots, but they're full of mud. Keep trying, he keeps telling them. Well, I'm trying, he said, and he finally got his reward. G Company area, looking at CTC red again, off in the distance. Here we are in the anti-tank area, A&P platoon, looking across the parade ground towards H Company area. And of course everybody had mascots. And you remember filling the gas tanks so we could do the cooking, the KP. This is G Company's KP. Some of the boys that went over the hill, yes, they even had them. The over the hill boys. This is the cook from H Company. And there comes Sergeant Kennedy. He has to go pick up one of those boys that went over the hill. He says, this is what I'm going to do to him. Of 253rd, some of the boys, the wire section, are coming out, getting ready to march down to the woods and climb some trees. Here you can see some of the barracks in the background. Lieutenant Green used to be communications officer. Sam Oglesby, Greenwood, South Carolina. Turvo. And G Company again making supper. Yeah. Playing with our mascots in our off hours. Rub them till they shine. And you had 3 dips, remember? This is looking down to the orderly room where we used to get our passes. Looking across the G Company area. And here we are looking across the parade ground at 253 over to H Company. It was reached over 100. Yes, it was mighty hot there. We suffered through many a summer, sleeping under the netting. Mighty, mighty warm. Bob Kelly says, yeah, they're playing around and having a little fun. So Bob Kelly was the switchboard operator, 253, and 2nd Battalion, and he's horsing around with the boys. These are some of the fellows from regimental headquarters, some of them from 253, 254, and 255. They are all attending radio school, wire school, and the school for cryptography. Ah, yes, these were the good old days where we used to sit and listen to the code, where we used to sit and run the tapes, and the boys used to go out and climb the trees. Sergeant Turvo taking a 5-minute break. Yes, we all attended communication school. And many of us ended up being rifle bearers like the rest. Here's some of the men from 253. Sergeant Brown from F Company. I don't know whether he went over with us or not, Sergeant Turvo. And this is one of the men from the orderly room. This is where we used to get our passes, gentlemen. Okay. Sergeant Day. Sergeant Turbo was saying, hey, come on, let's go. Saying, do you see that plane going across? He's really moving. Didn't see too many aircraft in those days. That's when General Hibbs got out the order we were going to eat out in the bivouac areas, and we were going to eat in mess kits, and we were getting ready for that. And here we see some of the men playing around. Kelly. Some more of the area of 253. We are now in a bivouac and a problem where regimental headquarters is teaching the men how to go out into the field and stretch the lines, the wire lines down into the companies with a E9 telephone. And here they are showing them the different methods of how to handle the wire, how to make communications back and forth. Large magnolia flowers that grew in Mississippi. Beautiful flowers, the magnolia. And here we catch a fella putting some trouble in the line. This is how we learned to find trouble, and it came in handy in combat. Lieutenant Gill, Sergeant Mulcahy, comm officers and sergeants of regimental headquarters. Here we see them in the area there. Some more of the 253rd men. Sergeant Kennedy and Sergeant Cohen. They're loading the trailer up. Here comes Billy Schlegel. He was one of the wiremen of communications, and he has just gotten a new stripe, and he was very happy about that. Here comes Chask out to congratulate him on his new stripe. Here comes another sergeant from F Company. And of course we had to learn how to handle the M1, and here we're just giving a little demonstration of firing it. And Chaska said, well, I'll sit down here and show you how to look through the hole and line it all up. So that's how we had some fun. And of course we were playing around, shooting the penny out of the hand, looking at some of our barracks there. Some more men up here at the communications group. These people are from 253, 254, 255, all from the communications groups. Some of the poles that the men climb, we learn how to use the climbers. You can see some of the barracks in the background in the communication school. This is Division Communication School. This was up in the far end of the camp, up near the flagpoles, if you remember where that was. And here's General Harris, who I happened to come across walking through the field there. And I stopped and asked if I could take his picture, and he said fine. So this was Communication Day, and here we are all at school. You can see the people mulling around in their 5-minute break. Naturally. Here we come again. Time for chow. We, Sergeant Ralph Sarasilla. He was first violinist with Xavier Cougar, who got shot through the head just before the Cocha River. He was from G Company. Here's some of the boys with that beer that we used to get there in Van Dorn. 2-3 beer. Ooh. And this is the last parade of the entire division prior to going overseas in November. This was the first roll of film in color that was sent to me just before the division was sent out. And this roll of color cost me almost a week's pay. Or I should say a month's pay. And here we can see the color guard crossing in front of us, and the officers moving into position. And here comes the regiments in formation, the color guard and the guidons. This was taken in November, just prior to shipment out for overseas for the war, and many of these men never return. But here they are in color, the 63rd Division in full dress. Here comes the division band. And some of the officers of the 63rd.